Hey, what's going on, guys? Nem here. Now, my buddy Outrider asked for help with crossbars, and I figured with the influx of Xbox players to Final Fantasy XIV, I'd make a little bit of a dedicated video on how to add additional buttons to your crossbar. Now, we're going to go over a little bit of the basics before we get into adding the buttons and customization and all that. So for those unaware, when you first start off Final Fantasy XIV, you'll have a default crossbar, which is what you see on screen right here. You access it by pressing and holding the left or right trigger. For the PlayStation players, that's L2, R2. But that is basically what the game gives you by default. So naturally, that's not going to be enough. Once you start leveling up your jobs, you will get a lot more buttons than what you can access from the get-go. Now, of course, yes, if you press and hold the right shoulder button, you can access your secondary, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth crossbar. But naturally, when you're playing in either like dungeons or trials and raids and stuff like that, you're not really going to want to scroll through all of those to get to your secondary hotbar for your abilities. So this is where that comes into place. Now, I'm going to assume that you know how to customize your crossbar and your abilities and stuff like that, but we'll do just a little brief overview. In order to place your buttons, you go into Actions and Traits, and for Xbox controller, we're going to press the X button. And now you can choose where you want that to go. Now you can see that I already have Blizzard 2 hotkeyed or in a hotbar already. But for example, we're just gonna press and hold the left trigger and the B button, and you can see that it's basically there now. Now I'm just gonna remove it, just for reasons. But the same deal goes with your hotbar 2. Now, personally, I like to use hotbar 1 and 2 for my abilities. And this is going to tie into the customization a little bit later. So, for example, if I were to press and hold the shoulder button again and then go into crossbar 2, you can see that I have a different set of abilities there. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, let's get into adding additional buttons. So we're going to back out of there. And now we're going to go into the character configuration screen, and from here you're going to start off it's going to start you off in the controller settings, but we're going to want to go down to hotbar settings. From here we want to make sure you're not really going to use a whole lot of these guys here. This will be for later customization if you need it, but we're not going to worry about that. Instead, we're going to want to go to cross, the tab that says cross up here. From here, we want to scroll down, and naturally, it's already going to say D-pad and action buttons. Leave that as is, because it'll give you the more choices for buttons. But the option that we do want to turn on is going to be always display WXHB. So from the get-go, you can see there that it gave us an additional 4 buttons on each side. Now we're going to hit apply, and if you're curious, why it chose these particular buttons, it's because if we go into custom, it's using the 8th crossbar. So that's where I have like all of my mounts and stuff like that. But we're going to change that right now. So we're going to enable expanded controls. Now what this does is you to access the left expanded, you hold the left trigger and you hit the right, and then you'll get the left portion of it. And if you want to access the right, you hit the right trigger first and then the left trigger, press and hold, and then you'll access the right. So we'll give you an example here. So if I wanted to access the left version of my crossbar 8, which is what you see here, it's going to be, you can see LT and RT, right? So what you would do is press and hold the left trigger, and then you press the right trigger on top of that. And now you have access to the left side of crossbar 8. Now, if you wanted to access the right side, you press and hold the right trigger, followed by the left trigger, and now you have access to the right. Now, again, personally, that's where I have all my mounts and miscellaneous little buttons that you can customize in the game from the actions and traits and stuff like that, like general commands and stuff like that. You can definitely put these buttons on one of those crossbars for you to access. But we're going to add more buttons to this. So we're going to go back into character configuration, and now we're going to enable the WXHB with the double taps. And now you're going to see down here, enable directional and action buttons. You're going to see an additional 4 set of buttons pop up here. Boom. So this is where the customization to however you feel like it'll be comfortable for you comes into play. Personally, for me, I have the expanded controls, which is the press and hold buttons. I have those for my miscellaneous stuff outside of battle. So that's why those are set to crossbar 8. I personally like to have the double taps for in-game battles, raids, dungeons, savage fights, etc. I like the double taps because for me it just feels like it's an easier way to access those buttons. So I like to have that set to my crossbar 2. So here you want to make sure that you keep it paired. So here it says display with left double tap. So we're going to do crossbar 2 left. Display it with right double tap, crossbar 2 right. And now we're going to hit apply. So when we close out, now you can see the additional buttons there, and you can see the secondary crossbar is now on top. Now from here, for example, now this is how it looks like. So if I were to double tap, now I have access to these buttons. If I were to double tap over here, now I have access to these buttons. And if I wanted to access my mounts or something, then it's left, right, hold, or right, left, hold. Now, in order to swap abilities, you cannot do it from here. So you can't like click this transpose and like drag it down if you were to have like a mouse and keyboard on a console. In order to change it, it's the same way via the actions and traits menu from beforehand. So for example, now you press and hold the right shoulder button, you go to crossbar 2, and now we want to put this transpose in, for example, right bottom. And now you can see that it reflects on the top, but if we have 2 there, we can just remove this one from it, and you can see how it basically reflects on there. So you have to make sure that you do it from the bottom here. You can't drag and drop by actually clicking on them here. So there you go. That's your easy way of accessing additional buttons. Now once you get comfortable with your abilities and stuff like that, you can turn off the names on there. If I remember correctly, it's in cross, and I think it's display hotbar help. Let me double check here. Yes. So if once you get comfortable with your job and you want to turn off the names for visual stuff, you can turn off display hotbar help, and now when you hold the buttons down, it won't show you the name. But if you're new to the game, I recommend keeping it open for a little bit. That way you can familiarize yourself with the names of your abilities. So that's basically a wrap on adding them. You can, however, if you're someone who wants to really kind of customize your UI, you can separate those. So let's do that. So now we're going to go back into character config, and down here in the cross tab, we're going to click in the position WXHB separately. So we hit apply, and now you can see them chilling over here in the screen. You can basically now go into your HUD layout, and you can click down here. If you're on controller, you can click down here, and you will have crossbar, left crossbar, right crossbar. So you can pick where you want your crossbars to be at, and that's, if you want to have like them all down below, that is entirely up to you. But that's how you further customize your experience on controller. Hope this helps. Enjoy the game. We'll see you around.